Good morning, I'm Bill Cook from Greenlee County Cooperative Extension in Duncan, Arizona. Spring is here and it's asparagus time, and this is really one of everybody's favorites is asparagus. It's the first thing to come. It's perennial, and as far as I'm concerned, it's probably the most food for the effort involved you can get. So how do we come to this point where we have a nice asparagus bed? Well, asparagus requires well-drained soil, and here at my place you can see I built a raised bed and it's been tilled to depth with lots of manure and sand and compost. So I have an area that's fairly well drained. These were planted from a 2-year-old crown. You can go online, you can find all kinds of places that sell 1- and 2-year-old crowns. The price is not that different, so I opted for the 2-year-old. You plant the crowns 6 or 8 inches below the soil surface in the spring, keep them wet, and they will miraculously one day pop through. So when you first plant your asparagus, you would be planting this typically here in March or April. You'll let it grow for 1 complete year. So next year, about this time, you'll see a lot of stuff coming up looking like this. So because it's a young root system, you'll pick it lightly, maybe every other day for a week or so, and then you'll discontinue harvest and you'll let it grow up. The reason for that is that the foliage is feeding back to the roots and you're developing a root system. So the second year comes around. Well, you'll pick lightly again for maybe 2 weeks. Third year, maybe 3 weeks. And finally, by the time it's 5 years old, you've got a pretty good picking season. Okay, so after we're done harvesting the asparagus, we're going to let it grow up. Now this asparagus will be 6 or 8 feet tall. We let it grow all summer because the whole time it's photosynthesizing and it's feeding back to the roots. Now come winter, the tops will turn brown. I like to leave the tops on as a sort of a mulch, and I wait until spring to cut it back. Now in the spring I'll start seeing some little asparagus emerging. So generally speaking, that's when I cut it back. And of course once you cut it back, the sun will warm the soil and it will begin to grow. So I also like to add a fresh layer of compost or mulch every year. And this keeps my asparagus bed in really good shape. So let it grow all summer, cut it down in the spring, hopefully not too early because that will encourage it to grow, and you've got asparagus. So how do you know how much to pick it? Well, I like to just kind of keep track, mark it on my calendar, and then the following year, when the asparagus comes up, I can tell by looking at the asparagus whether it's been under harvested or over harvested. So this is stuff that's been harvested just about right. Here is a section that was over harvested. You see how they're thinner? So over harvesting the asparagus will result in thinner stalks the next year. Under harvesting, they'll get quite large. They can even be hollow inside. So to harvest your asparagus, I like to snap it. It will break where it's tender. Then you'll want to remove the stump. A lot of people like to pick it first and then snap it. Either way is good, just so you know that it'll snap cleanly where the tough part begins and the tender part ends. One thing you'll want to watch for when you're harvesting your asparagus, be careful when you're cutting down here close, because you will find the tips of emerging asparagus here that can be damaged. See, here's one. This one was actually, I was looking at it this morning. It's grown that much in the last, 2 or 3 hours. It's emerged. But you may find tips below the surface. So the more you harvest it, harvesting it plentifully like that, you won't have as much tough stuff. What it boils down to is this bed will make 30 pounds of asparagus, whether I throw away half of it because it's tough, or if I pick it daily and harvest only the tender good stuff. So that's growing asparagus.